Hello, everybody. It's Jermaine Galloway with Tall Cop Says Stop. Welcome to our webinar today. I have quite a bit to talk to you about in regards to vaping and youth drug trends. I'm a national speaker, national expert on youth drug trends and drug trends in general. Today, this is going to focus just more on the youth side of things. First, when we talk our kids, and especially vapes, this really directly applies to our kids and vapes. If a vape is cheap, if it's easy to get, if it is flavored, it is going to trend with our kids. Cheap, easy to get, and flavored, it is going to trend with our children. Why is that? Because kids are not about high-end drugs. Kids are not about $100 vapes. Kids are not about stuff that's hard to find. They're about stuff that's easy to get and cheap. So this is why even in stores, this was a store in the Midwest region of the United States, it says ask for a deal. You say, how many times have I ever walked into a store or purchased anything where someone put a sticky note that says ask for a deal? Or this right here, buy two, get one free, vapes on sale, right? Or how about this, vape samples? Did you guys realize about 10% of the vape shops in the country have samples sitting out on their counter where you can just walk up and just hit a vape and just set it back down? What if your kids walked in there and just asked for one? You think they'd give them one? Because these probably are, 10, 20, 50% full. Think they would just give them one or sell them one for a few dollars? Makes you wonder a little bit, right? So when I mention vapes, right now, as I mentioned, we're talking nicotine, but when I mention vapes, it could be anything. A vape pen is just a distribution device. That's all it is. It's a way to distribute drugs and distribute substances. So I'm going to say it again. A vape pen is a distribution device. Instead of a pipe or a bong or a syringe, it's generally a plastic thing with some little bit of metal in it with some type of substance inside of it. Now, because of that, that makes vapes very appealing to our kids. And I say it is the bridge to the school system. It is the bridge to your kids. This right here was put out by our federal government, by the FDA, talking about vapes. I'm gonna let you guys read through this. They do reference it as ends, just a technical term of saying vape. You and I say vape, they say ends. Where also departments in the federal government have also called it an aerosol. Now, you and I call it a vapor, a water vapor, where those water particles are going into your deep lungs, but they do reference it as an aerosol. So, nonetheless, you have particles which contain other drugs or non-drug-like substances going into your deep lung tissue. Now, I'm sure some of the parents on here, I have parents on here who vape too, and it's not like you're exempt from any of this either. When we talk about some of the possible dangers of those chemicals going into your deep lungs, and remember, we don't have a ton of research on vapes. We still have more that we need. We do not have a ton yet. It is coming out. You guys have heard about the popcorn lung. You are hearing about some respiratory things, but you're also hearing people who vape and have had no issues, right? It is all person specific. Now, your kids are not using nicotine. They're using what we call nicotine salts. I put up several bullet points right here for you to see. Nicotine salts are a stronger synthetic, when I say synthetic, lab-made form of nicotine. Our labs, our chemists are very good at what they do. It is a stronger lab-made form of nicotine. That's what nicotine salts are. And that is what your kids are actually ingesting generally is nicotine salts. There's some vapes that contain other things. When you talk drugs, you never say always, you never say never, even though I just use the word never. You get my point. You don't say always, you don't say never. So when we talk vaping addiction, I want you to look at some of this. Smokefree.gov has put out some excellent information on vaping, and look at what you see here. The tiny particles, we talked about that, but are we experiencing some of these other, I call them bullet points with our kids? We are. Is vaping the only reason? Of course not. Everything's person specific. But are we seeing some interesting dynamics with this? We are, guys. We are. And this highlights some of the things we're seeing and the why we are actually seeing them. Okay. Now, like I said, you can go back to this in your own free time. A couple more points I want to show you. Just to give you an idea, I took this photo in 2020 in Dallas, Texas. So during COVID, this was a vape pen that contained 1,200 puffs. So that's one puff. 1,200 puffs, and it was selling for $21. 1,200 puffs, and it was selling for $21. Okay, let me show you in the last 6 years where we're at. This is the current record, which I actually found in the state of Idaho and Oregon recently. 100,000 puffs selling for $35. Think about the inflationary cycle we've seen between 2020 and now, how everything's more expensive. How is it we went from 1,200, so we went 99,000 puffs more, and the price point only went up $14 during an inflationary cycle? But you get the point. Vapes are dirt cheap, and going back to that trifecta, we've priced your kids into the vape market. So when we talk about these things, what can you do now as a parent? You have to start early. We're seeing vaping in second grade. You must be talking to your kids early. You have to start having these conversations early. You don't have to understand everything. You just have to get the conversation started. If you don't, the drug world is more than happy to educate and train your kids. You need to keep that in mind. So first, the conversation. First, if your kids do make a mistake, it's not the end of the world. Continue the conversations. But if you do have a child who's into vaping, don't just think, hey, they'll just grow out of it. You might want to seek treatment and other help from professionals. Vape pens are highly addictive. They are powerful. This is not a weak substance. I'll give you this point, parents. I have people in the addiction world who use drugs that you and I would consider hard drugs, who said they were able to get off those drugs, but were not able to get off a vape pen, if that gives you an idea. So moving forward, you have to continue the conversations. Vaping is at incredible numbers throughout the school system, starting in second grade, progressively going up all the way through the university system. You have to be active about this. There are other forms of nicotine salts that we will discuss in other webinars, but keep in mind, you have to stay active on this, okay? So a couple ways for you to do that. You can listen to my podcasts on Spotify and Apple. I put out a lot of information on vaping. It's probably one of the top topics that I do talk about. Tall Cop Says Stop. And then also you can see some of my contact info here. Facebook, X, LinkedIn, those are some ways you can get a hold of me. So I appreciate you guys being here. I think my time is up with you for the day. Thank you, everybody, and I'll see you on the next one.